Am I the asshole for calling out a customer who keeps tipping me with trinkets that might be cursed? I, 29M, work as a bartender. For some quick background, I live in a town named Rooseville, and as strange as some of this sounds, it's probably stranger honestly. I was gonna cope for a second, but yeah, this shit's weird. Not just the town, but the people here range from relatively normal to actual freaks. I've been working at a bar called the Hollow Tap for 4 years. Most nights are slow, filled with regulars who drink quietly and leave without fanfare. But every Friday at 9:17 p.m., Charlie walks in. If you're wondering how I noticed it's always at 9:17, well, it's because the first time he walked in, he said, "Oh ho, it is I, the Languish. What time is it?" Obviously, it was 9:17, but the weird thing is that he always asks what time it is when he arrives, even though it's the same every time. Charlie is probably in his late 60s, though no one's ever asked. I don't know why I think he's 60, since he doesn't even look that old. It's honestly mostly vibe-based, but also I asked once and he said, he wears a long coat year-round, smells faintly of cedar and ozone, and speaks in a voice that makes you feel like you're being read to from a very old book. He always orders a single absinthe, green, no sugar, and sits at the far end of the bar where the lights flicker more than usual. He never tips with money. At first I thought this was rude and he was just another cheap old man, and it actually annoyed me a little. Instead, Charlie always leaves behind trinkets. Strange, handmade-looking objects that seem to carry effects. Not always bad, not always good, just weird. At first, I thought they were just cool little arts and crafts projects, but then I started hearing stories. From Jules, former bartender. Charlie once tipped her with a small brass key. She wore it around her neck for a month. During that time, she said she could open locked doors as if they were unlocked. She sold it to a pawn shop when she was short on cash, and apparently it stopped working. She carries around lockpicks now, claiming all doors are locked to her now. She must be pretty good at lockpicking by now. From Marcus, regular. Marcus was a homeless man who visited the bar often, and people would buy him drinks. He complained about the cold once, and Charlie gave him a stone that was warm to the touch. Marcus kept it in his coat pocket. That winter, he never felt cold. Not once. But his friends would always complain that they felt colder around him, like he's stealing their body heat. He returned the stone to Charlie and can no longer see heaven. From Lila, bartender before me. Charlie left her a feather carved from bone. She said it made her feel lighter, like gravity didn't apply to her the same way. One night, she jumped from the roof of the bar, just to see. She didn't fall. Okay, she fell. Hard. She broke both her legs and was hospitalized. She lost the trinket at some point during her hospital stay. From a stranger passing through, Charlie gave him a coin with a hole in the center. The man flipped it before every decision: what to drink, where to sleep, whether to call his ex. He said it always led him to the right choice, until he flipped it as a joke, asking it whether Charlie was a genie or not. The coin landed on its edge. The stranger returned it the next day, visibly shaken. I guess it didn't appreciate being used as a punchline. Here's a sampling of what I received. A rusted coin with an unfamiliar crest. I won $200 on a scratch-off I hadn't remembered buying. This only happened once, so I guess it was a one-time thing. I carried it around for months before I gave up. A tiny doll made of twine and feathers, and also it was ugly as hell. The next morning, a liquor bottle on that shelf had shattered. But the doll was untouched. This stuck out to me more than usual because I had dropped a glass earlier in the day and it had miraculously had no damage. Interesting, but too unpredictable, so I put it away. A locket that wouldn't open. I wore it for a shift and got tipped more than I ever had. Nothing crazy, but considerably more than usual. I also had sleep paralysis and saw a figure whispering, "2 drinks, 2 drinks." It was creepy as hell, so I stopped wearing it. A marble that glowed faintly blue. I dropped it in the sink, and the water ran cold for 3 days, even when the hot tap was on. I think the marble is still there, but I can't reach it, so if you have any ideas, let me know. A wooden cube with symbols carved into it. Every customer who touched it remembered a dream they'd forgotten. One guy cried. One woman laughed for 10 minutes straight. One guy left without saying a word and hasn't come back. When I touched it, I had sleep paralysis again with the same figure. Obviously, I didn't want this one either. I kept hoping to get something that would be useful or convenient, but all of them were either temporary or had terrible side effects. I started collecting Charlie's trinkets in a jar labeled Charlie's Dongles. Don't touch or you're fat. My coworkers were fascinated. Some refused to go near it. One guy swore the cube Charlie gave me showed him his future wedding. He was already happily married, so this was slightly problematic. Another said the doll whispered his name and he wanted me to give it to him, but I didn't feel like that was a good idea. Also, the doll was ugly as hell. Then came the ring. Last Friday, Charlie tipped me with a shard of obsidian wrapped in twine. It pulsed faintly, like it had a heartbeat. I'd had enough. I slid it back across the bar and said, "Charlie, I appreciate the vibe, but your tip's starting to make people uncomfortable. Let me guess. This one will make me, let me see ghosts. But they're all racist." He didn't get angry. He didn't even look surprised. He just smiled, softly, like someone who's been waiting for you to catch up, and said, "Haha, that's a good one, actually." Then he replaced the obsidian shard with a small black ring and stood up. He added, "Nice footwear, Chief." Before I could ask what that meant, he turned and walked out. When I went to put the ring in the jar, I noticed something strange. The jar was empty. Every single trinket, gone. I asked my coworkers if they'd moved them. No one had. The jar hadn't been touched, but the shelf where it sat was wet, and etched into the wood beneath it was a symbol I'd never seen before, one that matched the crest on the first rusted coin Charlie ever gave me. Since then, my cat came back and now sleeps on the nightstand I keep the ring in when I sleep. My houseplants are thriving, some even sprouting fruit they shouldn't be able to produce. My water bill has been suspiciously low. Honestly, pretty awesome, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And yesterday, a stranger came in, ordered a beer, and left behind a single feather carved from bone. I held on to it, and it does kind of make me feel lighter, but it might be a placebo. I thought maybe Charlie was testing me, or protecting me. Or maybe the trinkets weren't curses or blessings, but tests, each unlocking something I wasn't ready to face. But then I found something else. Last night, I stayed late to clean. I was wiping down the bar when I noticed a small crack in the wood beneath the etched symbol. I pried it open with a screwdriver and found a hidden compartment. Inside was a folded piece of parchment, brittle and yellowed. It had a map of Rooseville, only not the Rooseville I know. There were places marked that don't exist. A second river. A building labeled the Hourglass. A forest with markings labeled deposits. And in the corner, written in looping script, "For the gambler. Take a chance." This freaked me out a bit, and I tried to talk to Charlie, but he hasn't shown up in weeks, so maybe I actually hurt his feelings when I rejected his gifts. So Reddit, AITA, for rejecting Charlie's trinkets and calling him out? Or was I just too blind to see that he was trying to help me all along? Update. I tried to find Charlie to apologize, and I think I found something else instead. It's been 2 months since Charlie vanished from the holotap, and I haven't stopped thinking about what he said. That's a good one, actually. Was my joke actually funny, or was he being sarcastic? I've replayed our last conversation 100 times. I was dismissive, I was afraid, and maybe I was wrong, so I decided to find him. I asked around town. Most people gave me blank stares when I mentioned his name. A few nodded slowly, like they remembered something but couldn't quite place it. One old man at the post office said, "Charlie? He's been gone a long time, even though I'd seen him just months ago." I didn't know where to start until I remembered the map. The parchment I found beneath the bar, marked with places that don't exist on any official record. The Hourglass, the deposits, and the second river. I took the ring with me. It felt right, like it was meant to guide me. Also, it was pretty sick. I left just before dusk, heading toward the edge of town where the trees grow too close together and the birds stop singing. The woods behind Rooseville aren't marked on any trail maps. People say they shift. That paths disappear. That sometimes you walk for hours and end up back where you started, almost like a good trail that goes in a circle. Not that hard to understand, lol. I followed the map as best I could, using landmarks that shouldn't exist. A tree split down the middle but still alive. A stone with a spiral etched into it. A clearing where the grass grows in perfect concentric circles. A chicken with shoes I passed. And then I found it. It wasn't wide, but it shimmered in a way that made it look deeper than it should be. The water didn't reflect the sky, it reflected something else. Something older. I don't know why I said that. What would be older than the sky? Anyways, I crouched down and held the ring over the surface. It didn't do anything because I guess that would be too convenient, but when I turned around, I saw her. A woman standing on the opposite bank. She looked like she was dressed for a jog or hike. She didn't speak, she didn't move. She just looked at me, like she'd been waiting. And then she was gone. No splash, no sound. Just vanished. I waited. I called out. Nothing. Rude. Eventually the woods grew darker, and I felt the air shift, like the forest had exhaled, but forest can't exhale, that's silly. I turned back, retracing my steps with the ring clenched in my fist. It pulsed once, faintly, as I crossed the spiral stone again. I got home just after midnight. The bar was quiet. The mirror behind the counter showed only me. But for a second, I thought I saw the woman again, standing behind me. When I turned, there was nothing. I placed the ring on the shelf with the carving. It was warm now, probably because I carried it around all day, but I wanted to sound mysterious. And I keep thinking about the map, about the hourglass. It was marked with a symbol I've seen before, on the coin Charlie gave me, shelf under where the jar was, and now etched faintly into the wood of my bedroom door. I might have carved it myself while sleepwalking, but I don't know. I don't know what the hourglass is. But I think it's where Charlie wanted me to go all along. And I think the trinkets weren't gifts. They were an invitation, and also gifts.